Yo, 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 what's good? Hi. All right, we're going to get right into it. Going to be working on the task sheet for Hydra, which specifically means this one right here. I would like to get some work done on sort of a, like probably a new page entirely. So I'm basically going to be pulling all of the requests, art requests from this area, and keeping this for like a programming specific task sheet. So we'll say this will also give me a nice dedicated spot to deploy some other stuff as well. So we're looking for like icons, projectiles, right? Say wireframes, units. I'm gonna say structures. Wireframes can go underneath icons, I think. Projectiles. And then we'll say and obviously this doesn't include icons for the actual units themselves. I kind of would assume that people would get that anyway. leave that as it is. Now, I think I already had a write-up for the Basilisk projectile at some point. But of course, this trying to actually nav the So we're looking at, we'll say, a thick, short, curved block of venom. I mean, it's like it's acid, so. What's up, Balethal? Welcome. Setting up an art request list, including projectiles and all that other junk, as well as there's going to be like a section for reads and stuff. I guess I'll probably move the icons to be below this, and then we'll just duplicate this and we'll say ability overlays. Or maybe I'll just make a category that's just called overlays. Thick, short, curved block of acid. And we'll say like the green acid. So maybe we'll just call this weapons instead of projectiles. Maybe we'll actually call it like a light green, because then you've got like the darker greens from the Mutalisk impact, and I think it's the same graphic when the Mutalisk projectile hits. The Spore Colony is the same thing, I'm pretty sure. Like if we were to take a look. Yeah, so it's like that green-yellow. So we actually should do a darker one then. So we'll say dark green impact. So we probably want a better read for Seeker Spores versus Glaive Worms as well. So I'll have to end up adding like a list of stuff like saying like Mutalisk, hit marker. So give him two options there. What's up, Mutas dozen? So that's projectile. Vorverling doesn't really need one because obviously it's a I'm definitely liking what I'm seeing here. This will be a much more robustly organized piece of work. So the overlays will be like for spells and stuff instead of weapons. What's up, Alexander? How are you? Did you enjoy your Wraith treatment? All right. I'll just slap all this stuff here for now. And then... It's not really pure because they also get a barracks fairly early on, but yeah, that's the 2-port Wraith. It's definitely surprisingly lethal. I think with an earlier Spire now, you'll see probably an easier time. Like, it's less of a gas incentive or less of a gas... I just realized that I didn't remove the Spire from this list here. I'll actually be putting something else in this location, so I'll leave that open for now. Anyway. Yeah, that's melee. I haven't done any specific things for that. That's just the melee build. Does anybody know if there's any, off the top of their heads, if there are any... unused, or rather, I should say, reused icons, like recycled icons for the Terrans, like by default. Like, for example, the Corsair uses the same icon as the Wraith weapon. The Corsair weapon uses the same icon as the Wraith weapon. I don't remember if there was anything like that. Also, any low quality icons that you guys want to see redone in some capacity, let me know. Can add them to the list. Right, yeah. I reused something for that. It's the flyer attack upgrade. Toggle on, toggle off, and... research tech. Like on the engineering bay or something like that? Like on the structure that you're getting them in? I definitely agree with that. I even wrote in the seismic spine stuff here. That's pretty crazy. Right, yeah. like it should show you what the icon that the icon should have the number of the upgrade that you would get if you moused over it, or like if you bought it, right? So if you're already at tier 2, it should show a 3. In my opinion. Well, you'd be surprised. Boom. Oh. Dude, why does that keep happening? I keep forgetting the colon somehow. So let me go ahead and close this out and DM this to DF. So with that out of the way, I mean, I'm going to quickly grab the stuff that's from, yes. Structures. think there's only like a few other small issues with the default structures that I would like to be taken care of, but not sure. Trying to think if there are any other... I guess the photon cannon doesn't seem that different from the Dragoon, but it's probably not that big of a deal. If I look at the Dragoon compared to the photon cannon. Honestly, I think maybe the Dragoon just needs a better one. Like, it looks a little... I would say one with turn directions would probably be better. And I am pretty sure that the Dragoon also has the same impact. Yeah, it's got the same impact hit marker. In what way exactly? I mean, a lot of them have question marks at the end because I'm like not sure if that's the best idea as far as descriptions or directions are concerned. But so just attacks. Well, I mean, certainly if you have ideas for like better descriptions based on what you know the abilities or icons to be related to based on the indication, I mean, let me know. But I guess like one way that I could definitely improve it is like being a bit more descriptive with the placement or posing that I want. Like where it says bloody Kaiser blades for Saber Siphon, I could probably mention that like maybe it's the blades are crossed or something. I could definitely see that. So, all right. Oh, I guess this is a structure. I think that was the syntax, but I haven't used that in a while. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if DF uses a stylus or not, but he's definitely got a lot more experience with Photoshop, I suppose. Yeah, like the toughest thing, like the reason why one of the many reasons why DF is like an instrumental member of the team, member of the community, is that he's not only a skilled artist, but he knows what he's doing when it comes to the technical art. Like the technical implementation, he knows what he needs to do to set me up to actually implement this stuff, right? It's like he knows what kind of files to send me, how to index them, how I'm gonna maybe edit them if it's like a tile set thing or something. He like gives me the opportunity to do that. Like he sets me up for success in ways that you might not immediately think about. You know what I mean? You Legionnaires, Death Knight, Open Brain, Zoop of Zergenbug. I agree with that statement, dude. Now, this is what got you destroyed last time you tried to talk on my stream. You just strung together words that don't make any sense. Get out of here, dude. Wake up. Would suck if I find out that that guy just doesn't... It's not intentional. He just doesn't speak English. I'm just yelling at him. Alright, so we'll say... Oh, they're super tiny. Um... I can't find where we talked about him. I think it's like 32 by 32 or something like that. That's really small. Shirk is trying to be funny again. Oops. I accidentally undid him. Okay, so we've got... I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to update the descriptions, but at least this gives me a venue to do that. Well, he might actually be Muslim himself, but I think he's also really a big memer. So, welcome back, Bill. Okay, so we got that. Yeah, maybe it was that too. What is this? Exemplar. So I guess we can say that this is here as well. We're not sure if that's going to require its own overlay, so I'll leave it as a question mark for now. All right. I actually don't know that wireframes are really necessary to throw in here. I mean, it's going to be fairly basic stuff. I think that's very descriptive and useful, don't you? I don't know why Blizzard decided the flamethrower's icon should be a fire emoji. That was probably for some unused ability or something, and then they were like, hey, we don't have an icon for the fire bat. Ah, that's good enough. Yeah, there you go. Just add a second one. It should probably be like a flamethrower that's actively blasting fire into some Zergling's face. Except we need to just be zoomed in tight on the flamethrower shooting or something. Like the flamethrower could be coming in at like a slight angle, not like a hard angle, like a right angle or whatever, but like a slight angle, and the fire would be pouring forth. I actually have an icon from a really old project that DF made, the icon for flamethrower, that I guess I could use as a basis, like a placeholder for now. Right, it's supposed to be on their like yeah, on their wrists, I guess. It's like wrist mounted. Yes, you'll probably need mapware to place extended units, which is pretty unfortunate. Ah! Don't do that. It's seen some minor updates now and then, but it's not really in a usable state, we'll say. I'm not sure why there's such a massive gap. It's like either there's no gap at all and it looks fucked, or there's a massive gap. Pretty frustrating. Nice formatting. No, I think it's in C++ using some... the front end uses Qt, which apparently is a real issue to get installed. Okay, and then for our Terran structures, I just want to add notes that we're going to need. Yeah, that seems a little goofy. I'm gonna try to make these a little bit more readable as well at some point, because they're just giant paragraphs. But this definitely seems pretty good. Much more organized than before. At some point, I'll pull them all from the task sheet. All right. See you later, Alexander. Thanks for hanging out. So, I'll go ahead and push another quick update since had to fix up some things. Oh. Well, that's pretty funny. I always confuse those folders somehow. Yeah, I thought I saw a message from you, Ultralisks, that said something to the effect of that you'd be in an hour or something. But maybe I'm mistaken. That was a while ago, though, obviously. Gonna test out some stuff here. I just want to play a quick game, see where the AI is at, and oh, something's missing over here. Oh, oh, the spire's down here now. That's weird. Never would have guessed that. Imagine going 9 gas as Zerg, dude. Holy moly. Well, you know, there's always next time. We do these things pretty often. Sorry you didn't make the one that was a little bit more convenient for your time, though. I'm sure that's going to be a little annoying. I want to try this build out. And, dude, you know, fast 2-port Wraith, right? Now imagine the look on Alexander's face when his Zerg opponent goes fast 1-base Spire all-in. See you later, dude. Yeah, I can actually almost afford it, too. Holy moly. That's crazy. That is honestly crazy, this timing. I got it before 2 minutes. I got a 1.5-minute Spire, by the way. But hey, this isn't all in, though. I mean, I've got basically no units. I could get destroyed immediately and have no way to respond. Right? So the spawning pool is so far out of the tech tree now. Because it's 200 minerals and a long build time. I'll bank some larva. And some money. I can't even get a Sunken to defend myself against ground units, right? Oh, it's a ZVZ. Mirror matchup, dude. This guy's gonna be destroyed when this Spire finishes. Oh, I just fucked myself, actually. Shouldn't have done that. I had exactly enough supply for... Check this build out, dude. This is insanity. Every Terran currently sweating, just shitting bricks. Because this won't show up in 1v1s, but in team games, you can guarantee one player is going to try to do something like this. I mean, why wouldn't you? Hi. Heard you like air units. Hi. Brutal. They got their Evo chamber, but they don't have anything for Spore Colony, unfortunately for them. I guess I should build the spawning pool now. So they have this like built-in thing where they'll try to defend themselves against shit like this, but I think this is way too early for what they were capable of doing. So there's also like the worst race too. Like Protoss could have gotten cannons or dragoons. Probably would have incidentally had the tech for both of those. No such luck over here, man. I do think that maybe the layer change to no longer require spawning pool might be too strong, though. Maybe, I mean, just by virtue of it being... Oh, they have another sunken over there. Yeah, it's mostly just by virtue of them having... Like, I don't need to tech to spawning pool in order for the... You know, the ability to do all that. I don't know, it is a little odd. Well, yeah, that strat's pretty fucking strong, even with the cost of the Spire being so high. But again, if I ran that test again and it was against Terran, they'd probably have enough Marines to kill me. Or drive my forces back, and then I would be at a huge economic disadvantage. So yeah, it definitely needs scouts. But if I feel like it... Okay, so here's my other concern, though, is like if the idea is that it allows you to get into air tech easier, right? Yes, it does, but it assumes you did not get a lair before you started your Spire. If you build your Spire after you were already at lair tech, you've completely negated the change, right? So it didn't impact you in that sense. Except now you actually need an evolution chamber, which you might not have built before. So it's actually not a net buff entirely, because depending on the build order, you might not have an Evo chamber when the Spire comes a knockin', right? When it's time for you to build a Spire in your old build order. So I don't know if it really accomplishes what I wanted it to accomplish, which was add a bit more flexibility to the Zerg Air builds. Right? Like, you still need a pool to get Zerglings, because you're going to have so many minerals floated from all the... Like, you're spending all your gas on mutas, but... I'm almost certain you're going to need to stick Scourge behind the lair tech line, because you imagine ZVZ just evolving into a Spire Rush who can pick off each other's overlords faster. Though it would be pretty dumb to do that, I guess. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe that Spire change isn't really as epic as I initially had envisioned. Right. So yeah, I'm not sure. Well, I will BRB anyway, and I'll continue to mull that over. Scared of any changes? No, same exact unit as before. I might make it so that they benefit from air weapons or melee attacks, one or the other. Probably air weapons. And it's like a +5 per upgrade or something, which is not completely insignificant, but... So yeah, I'll think about that Spire thing. I'll think about it as whether or not it actually accomplishes the changes that I want. I do think in team games it opens up some interesting strategies, like I mentioned. Like, it opens up, like, you can do a 2-hatch And instead of pool, like maybe you'd get your gas before you would get, like before you'd get pool first, then gas. In this case, you'd get gas after your macro hatch goes down, like say 9 hatch, 9 gas, or 9 hatch, 8 gas. And then at like whenever you have the money, you would go for a fast spire. Maybe you would still want to get your pool anyway. And in that case, you could delay your gas a little bit. But the idea is that you're staying on hatches for a while. You're not spending that first 100 gas on a lair. You're waiting for 50 more gas and throwing down a spire. I do see a world where that ends up working out. I don't see too many worlds where you don't need sunkens at all. But we'll see how it plays out. I'm really not 100% sure. I do like that there's so much flexibility for all of the other races now, though, because before it was only Protoss that had this flexibility. What's up, Vic? It was only, like, for Protoss, you had the ability to jump into, after you build Cybercore, you can either go air, mech with the Reaver, like, so basically Reaver, or Templar, like Advanced Gateway. And there really wasn't an opportunity for you to do much else as the other races. Like, Terran was very linear. And Zerg was like, you got Queen's Nest and Queen Tech just so that you could get Hive. But, like, you would also build all of the structures. In high-level ladder games, you would build Pool, Spire, Hydra Den, and, like, sometimes, in very rare cases, you would skip Spire. Very rare cases, you would skip Hydra Den. But you would generally want Lurkers in all builds, all matchups, eventually, as, like, a mid-game unit. And then, obviously, like, Ultralisk Defiler. So you used everything, but it didn't feel like it was much of a choice. So, like, we're adding more choice with Hydra, which means you're probably not going to use certain units or certain compositions or certain build orders or whatever. Like, there's going to be some stuff in the tech tree that you just don't touch because there's so much more of the tech tree. And I think that's fine. The other thing is that if we're targeting games that are much longer with larger maps and the idea that you're building a ton of bases and you're in games for, like, upwards of an hour, maybe longer in these team games, then it makes sense to have even more tech tree options because maybe you will use everything in Hydra in a really long hour-plus long game, right? So there's that as well to consider. But it's definitely one of those things where I'm wondering, like, it probably doesn't matter that much in 1v1s. It's just something that I've got to take a look at in team games. It basically needs fraud night testing, some more fraud testing at some point later on, so probably later this week. It's going pretty well. I just finished porting all of the art requests over to a dedicated art page for DF. And now after that, I tested a quick cheese build where I went for an early Spire because I made it recently so that it requires an evolution chamber and not a lair. I also made it so that lair doesn't require a spawning pool anymore, just doesn't require anything. So you could, in theory, go like extractor lair if you wanted to. It's just I don't see why you would. I'm not sure about that change. I don't know if I would like the idea that it requires a spawning pool, but I don't know about if I like the idea of changing it to require something else. Like, changing it to require nothing isn't really that big of a deal because odds are you're going to get a spawning pool anyway before you get a lair. But changing it to require something other than the spawning pool also kind of feels a little half-assed, a little much. But I was thinking about making it require the Overlord tech structure I talked about a while ago, where the Overlord tech structure, you would deploy it and you could get capacity and it would give you level up on speed. So you would actually get your speed upgrade from the Overlord tech structure itself. It would probably be something where you actually research it instead of it being tethered to a tech structure, though. I think I am going to go back to having Pneumatized Carapace as an upgrade, and that upgrade handling Overlord speed, because it feels a little weird to have Overlords regress afterwards. I'm still a little waxy-waney. I'm still a little on the fence about that. Like, I think we've seen it's run its course as far as testing is concerned. And while I think it makes more sense for the racial thematic, it's just one of those things that I'm not 100% sure if, like, in-game it actually feels good. Like, it certainly doesn't feel good to lose your lair. I mean, maybe it's fine because you're building so many layers. But when it's a dedicated tech structure like what I'm talking about here with the Overlords, it's like... So maybe getting lair does dedicate, like we keep that unchanged actually at the very least, because then it's like, oh, I'm going to build more layers, so it's fine. So then we would have a structure that unlocks lair but also allows you to get Overlord capacity, and because that's a dedicated structure, The thing is, you're still building it just for the incidental necessity of getting to lair, right? Yeah, I mean, it's not the only thing that works that way now. There was nothing that worked like that in vanilla, but creep speed and larva generation also worked that way, although larva generation is a unique thing. It's like specific to that structure. But creep speed also works that way. It's just such a minor thing that you don't really notice it as much. Have I considered making ore tech requirements? Yeah, the issue is I don't really like it. It feels a little weird to be like, oh yeah, you can build this if you build that or that. Like the one exception is like, well, there's a few exceptions. So it's like science facility used to require factory or starport, and then I just said make it require the armory instead, because the armory is like the tier 2 structure. Science facility is tier 3. That was what that's what I had in mind. But then you look at something like, so take for example, if you look at the dropship, really all the dropship is checking is do you have an add-on, right? That to me is a little bit more sensible. I mean, it's not right now. It still requires a control tower specifically and not a physics lab, but that's just because of a current limitation in the game. The idea is, hey, I've got this behavior that works like this, right? You've got a behavior where it's like the unit behaves this way, does this stuff, so on and so forth. And then, like, that's about it. And it's like, because this unit behaves this way, it requires these requirements. Like, I like it to be simple and straightforward, and I don't think that you get a lot of that out of, for example, saying, hey, you can get a lair if you have a spawning pool or an evolution chamber. I guess maybe in that sense, it doesn't necessarily rub me the super wrong way. Because if you consider it that way, it's like, oh, you've built some part of the tier 1, so you can get access to tier 2. It's just, it feels a little like it muddies the waters a little bit. So I'm not sure if there's a better tech option. So the other thing to consider, though, is if I'm going to make it so that there's another basic tech structure, because there's another spot in the tech tree, if I wanted to do that, I could make it so, I was thinking of making this require a layer, but it would basically be a tech structure that unlocks Iroliths, which is the economic booster for the Overlord morphs to the Irolith to increase speed of regeneration, of resource regeneration in its radius. So you would see this unit, it's kind of slow moving, it doesn't benefit from pneumatized carapace, it doesn't benefit from Overlord speed, benefits from that sort of thing. Yeah. Well, that's true too. It's like, oh, what does this require? This or that? It's like if there's so many of those, I can see where it could be a problem. I guess for the layer thing, it's not really that big of a deal. It's like you got to step at your toes into a tier 1 before you get to tier 2. Like, I don't really mind that much. The real concern with the whole layer thing is that it feels like a pointless change to make it require nothing, because really you're not going to build only a spire. And if you build spire first, evo chamber, gas, well, it would be gas, evo chamber, spire. If you go that build that I did in that 1v1, right, but you're doing it in a team game or whatever, like, you're probably still going to get a spawning pool. Like, you're going to get a lair for what? I guess evolving to Gorgoleths for anti-ground, or eventually when they're implemented, or Devourers for anti-air. I think that is fine. It's like, oh, I'm going to rush lair, right? But I don't have a spawning pool yet, so I don't have Zerglings, I don't have sunken colonies. I don't see a world where that strat works. Yeah, you are going to have extra minerals anyway, so that's true. Yeah, so I guess that's fine. I mean, maybe that's a better situation anyway. And it feels a bit better as far as, like, the lair requiring that way. But it does, for me, it's like, I don't understand. I don't think you're going to see options where changing this tech tree so that the spire doesn't require a layer, I don't see it affecting the game that much, really. I just don't see it happening. Yeah. Well, and then, I mean, honestly, the whole sunken colony requiring a spawning pool thing makes me think that maybe there should be a different requirement for that too. But I think it's actually in a fine spot. The only question to me is like, what would the Chasmal colony require? Maybe that would require the Overlord tech structure that I still haven't decided. I mean, it's called the Iroleth Birth, but I haven't decided what I'm gonna refer to it as, or like when it's gonna be implemented or anything like that. Anyway, like I said, I got a BRB to use the bathroom, so shall return momentarily. Yo, yo, yo. What do I think about larva generation speed increased for Lair and Hive? You feel like it's too weak to even consider grabbing additional ones, even if you have a load of gas? Dude, I always upgrade my layers and I never run out of larvae, so like I get like multiple hives. I don't give a fuck. I really like the mechanic. I think it works really well. Maybe additional hatches will be a bit more useful when we have multi-building select. Like, it'll be more cost efficient. And well, it is 350 because of the drone. But taking one hatch, upgrading to lair, that's 100, 100. Upgrading a hive, I think that's only a 150, 150. So you're looking at, if you wanted to get a lair, one layer, obviously, that's only 450, 100. And it doesn't require you to manage multiple areas. Like, it doesn't increase the surface area of your base. The other thing that is a little, well, layers and hives also give you much more supply than they used to. I don't think that notation was in here, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. Let me take a look. Because I think they always just gave you one supply, right? If I open up the default PyDat, I can tell, yeah. So this is default, provided 1. Now layers provide 3 over a hatchery's 1. And hives provide 5 over 1. So that's always been a benefit of Hydra's layers. I'll have to add that to the game state documentation here. So that's something that you don't get out of building hatcheries as well. But the other thing is, like, as soon as a layer finishes morphing, you get a free larva if you're not already at 3 larvae. So that's obviously something that's much more fleeting as an option or as a benefit, but still pretty useful. Sort of like how when a hatchery finishes, it gives you one immediately as well. Destroyed. Hatcheries take up a lot of space. I think you'd be surprised. I mean, they take up the same space as gateways, but much less space than Terran structures now. I don't think I have space to re-add that line in. Yeah. There's got to be something here that I can delete. Well, now your contention is that they give you less. What's it called? They provide with less. Zerg don't need as much space, is what you're saying, right? But if hatcheries already provide more production space, then I mean, come on, follow it through. Lairs and hives are upgraded versions of hatcheries. I think you should actually try the strat again. Like, I think you pay way too much attention to what the numbers say and don't actually just try it. Like, do you actually run out of larvae when you have 3 or 4 hatches that have been fully upgraded or even partially upgraded? Because I never do. I always have more larvae than I can manage with that setup. Hopefully this doesn't bug out PyAI when I try to add AI later. Well, I guess I'm not using that stat txt, so it's fine. Like, I'm open to it being found out as less than great or whatever, but I have had great experience with it personally. And if the numbers need to be tweaked so that they spam out larvae even faster, then I don't mind tweaking them, but it seems like it's in a pretty good spot right now. I've seen a lot of people myself included, taking advantage of the mechanic. Yeah, it's like a different way to augment your production capabilities. Yeah, but if you're going a gas-heavy build, like, gas is not uniquely more valuable as a resource. It depends on your build. You might have too much gas, or you might have the correct amount of gas for your build, right? And maybe that's a lot of gas. And it's not uniquely or completely something that's less beneficial. The fuck? Oh, that was weird. Because, like I was saying earlier, some people are going to have a much harder time managing a bunch of hatches, right? Like, you say it's not that difficult for you to manage them. I don't even think that's true. I've seen your POVs, and they're not great when managing a lot of hatches, right? Like, you've even said to me in DMs, like, oh, I got to get better at that. So I think maybe you're overstepping there, but even if I take you at face value, that's not true for everybody. I'm pretty bad at managing a lot of hatches. I got to get better at that. But I still never run out of... Like, I'm spending gas in this case for the sake of... oh, holy moly. There's a lot of stuff in here. I'm spending a lot of gas to augment that, right? Well, it's like I'm spending my APM on something different. So maybe instead of building a lot of macro hatches, I'm taking a lot of expansions and spending a lot of my money on not only augmenting my production so that I can make up for the loss in larva production through building a lot of hatcheries, but I'm not building a lot of hatcheries in my main or my nat. Maybe I'm building like one extra in my main and nat, but otherwise I'm keeping things relatively simple and saying like, all right, I'm limiting myself to around that much. So what kind of benefits can I still get out of this? Well, maybe my playstyle is still facilitated by this change. You know what I mean? I think there's more to it than what you're realizing, right? It's not just, oh, this is a worse playstyle. This is a lower skill playstyle. Like I'm spending my APM. It's not like I'm not doing anything. I happen to be using my APM for the purpose of facilitating like a different kind of gameplay. It's a different playstyle. It's like taking a large number of locations, building a lot of static defense there, attacking more often, like spending more of my APM and my action economy on aggression and improving my micro as a result, like improving the value that I get out of my units, the ROI there. I think there's a lot to that approach that doesn't necessitate that I'm less skilled, right? It's just that I'm finding a way to find success with a different set of skills. I wouldn't say that that's like less fundamentally skilled. It just means that like yeah, in vanilla terms, right? Because you need to know how to manage a lot of hatches. It is a fundamental skill, but Hydra allows for a different path to the same result or a similar result. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, it's a bad thing if it's a skill that like, oh, there's no counterplay to this. Like the counterplay to me doing this sort of playstyle is so the downside, the drawback is, hey, if I lose one of my bases, that's a lot more of my production than if I just lost 2 hatcheries. Losing 2 lairs or hives is a lot of money invested. Probably means I also lost a mining base, which is a huge investment and a huge amount of like a very big strategic asset. On top of that, in addition to losing all that stuff, I also lost more production than maybe a hatch focused Zerg would have lost, right? Because they maybe would have lost 3 or 4 hatches, but they still have like 6 hatches in each other base or 4 hatches in each other base or something. So like there is a downside to it. It's not like I could do something in a less skilled manner and find the same result as somebody who's doing it in a high skilled manner. I feel like it's just a different set of skills, has its own set of drawbacks, but also its own set of advantages. Mostly in action economy, like I can focus a bit more on the action economy of things. And hopefully that explains it better. I don't know. Feels like I gave you a good explanation as far as I'm concerned. But. Oh. But let me know if I need to elaborate more. I think this was just going to be S. For the record, I do agree that you shouldn't be rewarding players with lower skill. I just disagree with the assumption that it's a lower skill activity. Why should I change that? To save on space? It's not even in this document, I don't think. Yeah, it's not even in here. So... So is there any resolution to that, or are you just content to leave it where it lies? Oh, fuck. All right, that's fine. Destroyed. Dummy. Forgot to save my changes, I think. All right, so I want to say pretty good there. There was one other thing that I wanted to test. Seems to work correctly, so we'll go ahead and ship this one. Oops. Where is my P02? Here it is. Okay. Let's do some work on the Protoss 02 layout. Just mostly figuring out what I'm going to be doing over here. So we do have this like large temple area in the bottom left. We have a little bit of temple scattered throughout the rest of the map. And maybe that's fine. Though I might end up replacing a lot of it with high dirt instead, even though I really like this little piece. Maybe it's like fine over here, and then I'll replace this with high dirt so that it's... I don't mind it being distinct visually, but I am a little concerned that it would feel a little scattershot. Like, oh, there's temple everywhere, whatever. Like, it doesn't feel very interwoven, I suppose. Then I've also got to revise the layout a little bit over here with regards to whether or not there's going to be ramps in all of these positions, that there are currently ramps, whether or not I'm going to add more ramps. I do think that the paths to this area on the low ground in the swamp, I think that that works out pretty well, generally speaking. Like, this will be pretty easy to defend when you have forces here, but I don't think it'll be particularly easy to defend if you don't have forces here. You know, like, the distance between it and the rest of the map is fairly large. I guess my main concern here, though, is that obviously it'll end up being more of a Zerg-oriented area. There's not really that many ways that Protoss could access it. But I don't think that's necessarily that big of a deal. I mean, that's pretty much true in all maps. There's always going to be areas where if you ended up building a base there, like even in Melee, really, you built a base there? Like, that's weird. What the fuck happened in the rest of the game then to result in something like that? Like, if you built a base in your opponent's natural, it would seem very strange as a comparison. So I'm not super concerned with that outcome, but it's just a thought that I had. Why don't we do something like this here? All right. Why's it gotta be like that, homie? Oh, excuse me. That's odd. All right, well, that'll have to do. So we can slap together a nice base over in this area with some higher ground. I think a base right here will be good as well. I do look forward to actually going back and updating Stormborn when we have that cannot create more U fix in. It'll be really nice to get that up and running with the new Hydra stuff. I mean, obviously we had a lot of AI issues when I first made that map, but I think it's going to look real nice with the, like some variant of, obviously some updated map-specific variant of the Hydra melee AI. It'll probably be pretty tough. And I might revise the map itself as well. I find it hard to believe that I won't. Hell yeah, good vibes, man. I agree. Get out of my way, hatchery. I'm not sure if you guys can hear that, but there's some pretty epic sneezing happening in my background. It's probably not possible for you guys to hear it, but it's pretty epic. Alright, that's the high terrain one. It's also the high terrain one. Nice. I really outdid myself. By which I mean I used basic common sense. Well, maybe I didn't do that here. Oh, no, I did. What was I just thinking of? I don't know why that was so confusing to me. Going senile over here. So, Bathol, if you're still hanging out here, what have you been up to? I know you said you were dealing with some shit, but I was wondering if you had been getting up to any projects. Anything of this sort. Or if you were interested in starting some up. I think we've mudded everything besides this base here, and I still have to add one in the bottom. Obviously, I didn't mud that one specifically. Oh, over here is missing mud. So I don't think I can actually fix that one up. Yeah. Have to do the next best thing. Are there actually no bases that are placed on raised jungle? This is actually the only one? That's crazy. Nice. Yeah, I would say we've taken care of business over here. Only question is... besides, how do I fix this stupid-ass tiling? The only question for my money is whether or not these ramps out of the swamp are going to go where we need them to go. I think this is like a nice clearing to mass up before you attack. So I don't really mind this. I think that's fine. This is like a nice backdoor into this area in theory if you wanted to go that approach. So that's fine too, I think. And over here, we've got this ramp leading down directly as a straight shot into this area, which is probably good. And this one leads into that one. It's kind of like right through the expansion, though. Like, my main concern is, like, maybe we should move this ramp over here a little bit more. And we could, like, trim out some of this. So we'd be dealing with less in that area. And then when we move this ramp over here, we can seal this off. So then this area is kind of safe, a little bit safer from direct ground attacks from the rear, but then we also have a little bit more access, like a bit more of a straight shot over here, and then a little bit more maneuvering room over here. This is my theory anyway. I can't believe these got fucked up. I should fix those in the tile set instead of fixing them on a per map basis. All right. So that's good. We've managed to check off some progress in this map. I might end up reworking this into another base area. For one, it would offer a bit more room because, like, right now it seems like there's just a lot of bases for the Protoss to take, but you got to remember that one of the Protoss players arrives partway through the map. So we're almost giving enough base areas here for like 3 players. And I think that's a pretty important aspect of this. So I would say, like, yeah, there probably should be a base that ends up getting stuck over here, maybe. I'll make an actual blend for that later on. And I might even end up extending this cliff out a little bit here and shrinking the ramp or something like that so that there's a little bit less to worry about as far as angles of attack are concerned. I mean, even now, honestly, like, not... Yeah, I think this will just be outright better. If we say... do it this way. All right, off we go there. Got another base down. So now there's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So by my count, there's 18. I may have screwed up somewhere, but... making sure that we are not botched with any of these. Yeah, looks like 18. Pretty good stuff there. I guess if I was going to try to add another one, it would probably be over here in this area. But I don't think it's really required. Like, this area is kind of a nice... combo or whatever. All right. I'll take another BRB, and when I get back, I'll probably do a little bit of Rust. All right, I am back. Gonna do some hooking for the sake of helping out iQuare with his Overlord project. Once I get these done, I might do some more. But these are not super long, so I should be able to get them done. We'll say... Looks like it just takes bullet. See if we already have this in mod RS somewhere. Doesn't look like it. Why? Very useful. So easy enough so far. Welcome back. I agree with the idea that you should understand the game mathematically, but it feels like you don't even bother actually trying out the strategies and you just make determinations based on numbers. I could be wrong about the hot layer hive thing. I don't know how heavily you've experimented with it, but again, maybe it's just a factor of your playstyle as opposed to it being a fundamentally flawed or mathematically, numerically flawed implementation or something. And if you have already considered those counter arguments, you certainly don't present your counter arguments in the same way. Like it doesn't seem like you're steel manning the opposition here. If that makes any sense. Well, again, it might not be optimal for your playstyle. You might want to take less bases, drone up more on your active bases, and thus get more out of your individual bases by building more hatcheries. Whereas I want to build a lot of bases, which necessarily spreads my structure setup thin, like my base area, my surface area increases. And to conserve even more on surface area, I put my eggs in similar baskets, as opposed to making it so that I have a large number of it. I can't bother investing. I feel like it would be worse for me to invest in building a lot of hatcheries in my bases, because that's going to drain up way more minerals that I could be using on drones, on expansions, on economic status, overlords, etc. And I usually take enough bases that the gas cost doesn't actually impact me. That's my take on it. Move target. I'm glad iCoin didn't need really large hooks for this function. Or I'm just glad I'm not writing a really large one right now. Well, I'm totally open to the idea that it's not optimal. I'm totally open to the idea that it needs more in the way of buffing to make it more of a useful strategy. I just feel like when you laid out your arguments, you completely ignored the inherent bias and just hid behind mathematical stats and said, "Oh, because the stats say this isn't optimal, or because the stats say it requires more gas." Like you completely ignored the whole playstyle bias, where your playstyle relies on conserving gas for whatever reason, even though everybody here floats a bunch of gas. Like, I don't see that how that would be a really big issue. But also, I can see where not not going out and getting more expansions might end up screwing you over in that respect. Like, I always take 3 bases as Zerg no matter what, unless the game ends at like 10 minutes. And that's like my bare minimum, is I always have 3 gases running. So for people who don't expand as much when they're playing a Zerg, maybe it doesn't seem as reasonable, economically speaking. I also think that hockeying the hatcheries is really not a great idea. Because, like, I get the idea that it's meant for mostly for rallies. But, I like that issue where when you hold down a key and then also try to use your mouse, or like it deactivates mouse play, and if you click your mouse it deactivates a key. I don't know if that's even something we can fix, but it would be nice to backport that from remastered, because that is a really irritating issue where your controls just don't work if you have a click. Yeah, well, the issue is like if you go into 161, they removed this and remastered. It's like the only balance change that they made besides making the gameplay frame rate worse. They so when you hold down in something, like say you right click, you hold down your right click and then you try to use a hotkey, you can't do it. It doesn't work. So oftentimes what will happen is if you have one input, it stops the other input from coming in. Now I don't think this is the case with keys, but I'll show you what I mean. Like, it basically leads to some situations where it feels like I'm gonna 1 SH, 2 SH, 3 SH, and you see how one of them didn't work? It was my 2. My 2 did not SH. That time it worked, right? But I had to keep them like all that way. Like, I had to click it a lot more. I don't know I don't know how to explain it. Basically, it's just fucked. In this case, I'm holding down my right click and I'm hitting S, and nothing's happening. Same thing if I'm holding down left click. So the game just doesn't allow you to buffer those inputs or whatever. I would like to fix that, just because it leads to some really annoying issues. Which feels like the game is just not responding to you, but it's actually like a very bizarre UI limitation. No, it's an actual. As far as I'm concerned, it's a bug. I don't know if it was an intentional thing. If it certainly feels like a bug, though. Dude, I don't know what the fuck this pseudocode is. That is some real sick shit. Yeah, have you taken a look at the epic first video of my playthrough? I feel like my commentary ended up being pretty on point. I like that. I feel like it's like really hard to take it from the top in that game because there's so much to go over. There's so much to try to break down. Like I could go back and talk for like another fucking 2 hours just on the stuff that's in the first video, but this will be as comprehensive as I think it'll ever be. Yeah. Well, I think in general I've gotten better at it anyway. Not necessarily anything purely to do with the... Wait, what even is I? An image? It's not necessarily purely to do with the fact that it's recorded, but when streaming, I definitely have more, like, I'm looking at chat, I'm, you know, dealing with mixed play sometimes, like, historically speaking. So there's definitely more in the form of distractions. I guess it would be main image. I'm not really sure. I don't think I wrote this out right. I mean, I definitely didn't write it out right because I have no idea what the Rust syntax for for I loop in this sense would be. Like in this case, it's just for every bullet with that spread over there. Not sure. Yeah. And some of the Brood War maps later on are a little bit more involved, but yeah, for the most part, it's just a bunch of gimmicks or a bunch of boring shit. Yeah. Behavior type. Maybe that's order state? It's hard to tell. Okay, so I guess I can switch this over here. So we've got 52. Right, so that's 50. And then you minus 2 again. It's 4E. It's 1, 4. Yeah, it looks like it's order state. What is field 4E anyway? It's the thing below order state. And then order state is order fog of war unit. Almost done here. I guess I can let mute the sprite, actually. It's not like it's used anywhere else anyway. There's literally no AI for the first 3 maps of the entire thing. Tutorial, map 1, map 2 have no AI. So yeah, it's pretty bad. Like, you can just... It's pretty unfortunate, we'll say. J equals... Alright. I'm not sure why this keeps complaining, though. Bounce target. Maybe I have to declare the variable as a unit before? Oh, never mind. That has nothing to do with that. I don't know why it's acting up there. It shouldn't expect an integer, it should expect a bullet, because that's how I wrote the function definition. So that's really weird that it's getting angry over there. So here we have... Shouldn't be long now. Oh, this is a whack there. The fuck? Oh, this is a box. This is a very bizarre, very, very bizarre hook. I guess it would be... Well, this is definitely fuck. That's alright. No idea about that one, man. I'll go ahead and define the other whack vars, though. Alright. Of course, there were some... changes to hooks RS, SMH. Oh. How do I resolve a merge conflict again? I thought I was able to just, like, use... There we go. Alright. I figured it out, guys. Everything's all good. Well, I edited them all right. I edited them by discarding my changes completely. See you later, nerd. Oh, I think this is a wrecked. Isn't that what it is in Rust? It's like wrecked. No, I guess not. Wait. It's fine. That's not DW box anymore, dummy. There you go. Okay. And just like that, we did a whole bunch of work. That's pretty epic. We cracked 3 hours. I gotta tell you guys, I had a lot of resistance today. Many times I wanted to just kill the stream like super early, but 3 hours is not really that long, but I still feel pretty accomplished with the work that I was able to do in those 3 hours. You know, I updated the task sheet and I updated I made the art sheet there, the art request form area. Put this together, a nice giant description of everything that I need. It holds everything that's currently been requested and a bunch of new things that I just added today as well. Very nice. Much more organized than before. So that's what I did at the beginning, and then I worked on the Zerg techtree revisions. I think I got some pretty good stuff done there. I worked on the layout for P02, prettied up some areas, added some decals for like the mud and all that shit, added all those. And then, of course, updated that bottom right-hand area, actually fleshed it out so that it's good to go in theory. And so the map is functional in terms of its layout, should be all set. And then I did some rust hook. So despite all that, I think I can say good job, me. So good job, me. I'll be taking a break, and then I'll be getting some more video recording done. Probably in the next half hour or so. Take a walk, you know, clear my head, clear the air, get some fresh air in my brain. According to my current speech patterns, I think it's safe to say I need it. So I'm going to go do that. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Thanks for all your help. Thanks for the frauding. And if anybody ends up making any maps or updating any maps, let me know so that I can put them on the repo. Remember, we do need more team game like 3v3, 4v4 maps. And probably could use more 2v2 maps as well, though we haven't really played a lot of the ones that we already have. And I guess there's a fair bit of them in the Dark Metzen collection I can pass over. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. So that's it for announcements. Tomorrow I'm going back to work for the first time in a couple days. So I will be only doing my mod stream at the beginning. There will be no other content most likely. But we'll see what happens. Stay tuned. Bye-bye.